everyone. Welcome to Triple T Thursday. That stands for Tips, Tricks, Tutorials. Today, I want to chat with you about something. Why do some people succeed on YouTube and others don't? Plus, we're going to do a little bit of a Vid Summit recap. We're going to tie this all in with a bow because I think it's part of a presentation that I watched that was part of the Ryan Trahan talk. And I believe it gets to the heart of the matter why some people succeed more so than others, and how we can apply this perhaps to ourselves and yourselves. I'll say yourselves because we all know Shelly can't do. So Shelly teaches instead. Okay. Oh my gosh, James Pruitt in the house. I haven't seen you in a long time. How are you? How are you doing? Wow. How's everything with you? Wow. Wow. I feel like we need to momentously it's great to see you. It's great to see you. It's been a while. It's been a while, man. Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. How are you? How have you been? Let's also take a second, and we have a very important question that only I seem to ever care about, but you do participate in, and you oblige me, so I thank you for that, and I thank you. And that is, what's in your cup? James, it's been a while. You let us know what's in your cup, and I will let you know what's in mine, although mine will be a very familiar drink. Mine, I am doing the Awake English Breakfast Tazo tea with a little bit of honey at the bottom. So it's a oldie, it's a goodie, it's a classic throwback. Okay, let's have a little chat. Okay, I want to talk to you. I was at Vid Summit last week, which is why there was no Triple T Thursday. However, to make it up to you, I did go live yesterday. Not that you're make it up to me. You know what I mean. Okay. I did go live yesterday talking about how I believe that the Try Guys response video to Ned Fulmer being fired was the perfect PR response as well as could be, okay? It was the perfect execution and employment of the STAR method, which is something that we use in the tech world, which stands for situation, task, action, result, and reflection. And so if you're interested in hearing about that from kind of a 10,000 foot high technical company, way my brain works, immediately thought of it aspect, then tune into that one. I thought it was interesting, okay? Okay, let me just see here. What do we got here? We've got James Pruitt in the house, cameras in the house, Pixelpia, of course. Hello, everybody. I know it's been crazy. It's great to have you back. I was thinking about you the other day because I saw you on Twitter and I was like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. And Tech for Your Needs. Hey, great to see you too. Great to see you. Thanks everybody for being here. All right. So the reason that I also bring this up is because the Try Guys have individual brands and have brands as a group. Okay. So I was talking about this as a discussion point on Twitter today, actually, with Roberto Blake and Chris Boutte. So let me just pull up this and I want to show or talk about some of this real quick. So Roberto had made an interesting point that perhaps, you probably could have killed someone and had less of a reaction than the Ned Fulmer Try Guys reaction that's happened. And I was like, I don't think you're incorrect. I think there has been a slew recently of the people who have, let's say, built their brands on being the I love my wife guy. That's Adam Levine. That's that's obviously Ned Fulmer. That is, if you think John Mulaney, there was the NBA coach. I don't want to say his name wrong, Ime Udoka, and all of them seemingly always talking about how much they love their wives, and then all of them going into cheating scandals. Okay, so I was saying one of the reasons why the Try Guys was so reacted to from the rest of the internet is because I said I don't think people would have cared as much if, notwithstanding the employee thing, right? Because that's obviously bad. But there are a lot of people that cheat on their spouses, a lot. But this particular gentleman had built his brand on being the I love my wife guy. And I think that's why it was tougher. And I was like, so when Roberto said you probably could have killed someone and had less of a reaction, I'm like, I don't think you're wrong. I think that you could almost understandably explain why someone who could get drunk one night, get into a car, make bad decisions, and then possibly hurt someone could get away more so than this thing that is calculated for this last allegedly year, them having this relationship behind everyone else's backs and all of that. I'm like, that feels like more of a betrayal, like more of a violation than the one-time thing probably ever could be. So I was like, yeah, I think that it was a different situation and scenario in that case. So that was just, that's my opinion. Dr. Jam, hello, listening from the bus. Okay. Dave, great to see you. Wow, I feel like it's a reunion up in here. Wow, it's so nice to see all of y'all. Really, really is. Okay, so what does this have to do with why some people make it and some don't on YouTube? So to tie this back together, Ned Fulmer had created his own personal brand separate from the Try Guys as this one individual who happens to love his wife. Now, during the Vid Summit presentation that was happening, Ryan Trahan did a presentation and he had some great examples. I was going to download them and bring them in. I don't think I did that. Let me go see if I can at least do that and then bring them on the screen. So hold 1 second while I try to do that as well. Come get this commentary. Hey, Kiva, how are you? Great to see you. Great to see you. All right. There are only 3 photos I need to download, so hopefully this shouldn't take too long. Overall, Vid Summit. Good experience. I had a great time there. I was glad to go, and this year was a different experience for me because last year I was working the event. This year, not so much, which was great because I could go to the talks that I wanted to, and I could, meet people or change plans. And because there's so much of the ability to do replays and stuff, a lot of it is the hallway conversations and stuff, getting to talk to people who you don't normally get to, but who are also in the same creator space and understand what you're going through. Very, very, very valuable. So they also made an announcement at Vid Summit that next year's Vid Summit, and I believe there might be the discount extended through today, maybe it ended yesterday. You might want to check and look at that. But they announced that the next year's Vid Summit, they're changing locations. It's going to be in Dallas in the first week of October. I'm very, very excited about this. So excited about this. So all of that being said, Ryan had a great thing where he talked about there are multiple sides of yourself that you show on the internet, right? So here's a picture. Let me see if I can drop it on and see if it will do the thing. Let's see. Did it do it? Yes. It says this personal, who I am in secret, right? And he's like, when your identity isn't your job, you can be freed from burnout and create with joy. So this is an interesting, I was like, okay, that's cool. That's a cool thing to say. And then he said, but what's also interesting, this one was, but who am I in secret, right? It may not be the same thing that you see. So he's like, I'm a husband and I enjoy nerdy things. I'm into Shrek, whatever else it is, and stuff like that, right? And then he did this thing, and I want to go through this with you guys as an exercise. He says, when you are defining yourself, you have a little bit of this. And he's like, who I am online, who I show up to be, and then there are these positive and negative traits. Some people think about them in these ways of, when you think of things as negative, he's like, maybe sometimes it isn't truly negative in the way that you think about that. So I thought this was an interesting thing. So we're going to come back to this. Hold on. How do we come back to me? Okay, there I am. So we're going to have a fun game. And so you're just going to think about the slide because I didn't actually have time to take their photos off of the thing. You know what I mean? He says, he's not that he's into Shrek. He's like, I'm a little bit nerdy. I'm a little bit quirky. I'm a little bit awkward. So this is actually his example that he gave. And I'm going to share this one with you. When I was, where's my download one? Where is it? Here it is. And he was like, this is kind of me. It's going to load. Boom. He says, when I define myself, and I think this is a great branding exercise, he says, I make content that's wholesome. I think I'm pretty witty. I think I have a lot of grit to me, okay? I might be a little naive, maybe chalk that up to me being young, and I'm irrationally optimistic. So I thought this is a great exercise in brand identity. This is him saying kind of like who he believes that he is. And I thought, okay, great. So think of those things. So the 3 that are at the top are the ones that are more associated with positive traits. And then the one that is the 2 on the bottom is going to be more of the items that might be negative traits. Okay. So that one was a really good exercise because he self-identified those in himself. Then he gave 2 different examples, and unfortunately I don't have the beforehand, so it's just going to be the after. So here, the 3 positive traits were they're comforting, they're artistic, and they have taste, and they're quite candid. Those are the positives. And then the 2 possibly perceived negative traits were they're an introvert, and perhaps they're a little bit awkward. So if you hear me say those 5 traits about a person, place, thing, or brand, if you were to start guessing who it was that they were referring to, I would love for you to put your little tippy-tap keyboard guessing fingers to work, okay? So the positive traits were they're comforting, they're artistic, and they have taste, they're quite candid, but they're a little bit introverted, and they're a little bit awkward. And so these are the top 3. The first 3 are the more positive traits, and the bottom 2 are perhaps the more perceived negative traits. But if you think about it, sometimes it's those other additional traits that really make someone the most interesting. So in this particular instance, I'm going to put this one on screen. If you have any guesses. Hey, El Jefe Reviews, Adam's Exploits. Wow, it's like a reunion up in here. Like I said, great to see everybody. Great to see you all. El Jefe, how are you? How are you doing? I know that it's going through a very hard time, but I am thinking of you. To come back to this was the example that Ryan actually came up with. And so if you don't know who this is Emma Chamberlain. She has definitely gotten very popular and more mainstream. She got known also for a lot of her editing capabilities. That is not Nick Nimmin. Although, can we just, for a minute, if you guys did not see it, I put it on Twitter, right? But 2 years ago, I cannot believe this. It took so long for this punchline to come through. I had told, because Nick Nimmin and Dee Nimmin were running around with those shirts, this is like, I am not Nick Nimmin. And for some reason, I joked to them, and I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? One day I'm going to make you shirts that say like Thing 1 and Thing 2 from Disney, but I'm going to put like Nimmin 1 and Nimmin 2 on it. And they laughed, and I laughed, and I thought it was like this funny moment. They did not know. I went the next year when we were coming to Vid Summit. I bought those red shirts, and I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to print it out on my Cricut or, like on vinyl, or I'm going to print it out and then iron them on, and I'm going to give it to them, and it's going to be hilarious. It's going to be so funny. Come to find out, right, that in the middle of the pandemic, and then like they couldn't get out of the countries, plural, that they were in, they weren't coming. And so I was like, oh man, but I was going to give them these shirts. It was going to be this like creme de la creme moment. Bigger problems in the world, right? But the idea was still there. So the shirts have been sitting in my closet for an entire extra year. So actually, by the time they got them, it was 2 years. And so this year, Vid Summit was coming around. All signs were pointing to both of them are coming, right? Like it looked like this was going to happen. There was a little bit touching, but it looked like it was going to happen. I was like, finally, I was like, okay, we're doing this. So I had my husband help me because he's very meticulous and helpful. And so I was like, okay, this is the font and this is what I'm going for, and help me exercise my vision. And bless his heart, he did. And so we did that. And I heat pressed him and packed him. And this is just a story for y'all that I will hopefully find funny, but I'm going to tell it anyway, even though we all know I'm not a great storyteller. So I'm running around the lobby in hotel looking for them, being like, okay, I got to find them because I got to give them these shirts, right? And it's like first night there, second night there, first night there. And I run into them and I'm like, okay, I've got presents for you. I have to. He's like, oh, great. So I'm like, I'm going to go up to my room and get them. He's like, okay, well, I'm just running to get a SIM card. I'll catch you when I come back. Okay. And I'm like, okay, great. Did not see him for the rest of the night. And I was like, are you kidding me? But so I finally run into one of them and I run into Nick first and I have the shirt and I'm like, I have this. It's taken me 2 years to get to you, but I have it. I don't know if the punchline, even if you'll remember it, but here you go. Here's your shirt. And his eyes and face lit up and I was like, oh my God, these are so great. And I'm like, oh yeah, you still get it. You still understand. And then I showed him, I got one for you and I've got one for D. And I was like, Nim and 1 and Nim and 2. And he's like, well, I have to have Nim and 1. Cue the awkward. Okay. Because if y'all don't know too, D is firstborn, right? And he's the older brother. And I was just like, oh, I had already had this like in my head. I was like, because if there's a 1 and 2, you probably want to be number 1, right? And I was like, here I am speaking with number 2. And he tells me he wants the number 1 shirt. I'm like, oh, it's so awkward. I was like, listen, I already have these. No, I can't give you Nim and 1. And he's like, what? And I'm like, it's for D because he's the firstborn. And at least that, like, you can't argue with that, right? And he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, I know. And so then I give him the Nim and 2 shirt. And then I run into D and I was like, you don't even know how awkward this is for me because he loved it too. And I was like, I have this for you. And I had to fight Nick off because like he wanted Nim and 1. He's like, I would have put him in like a chokehold. I would have taken it from him anyway. I'm like, look, I know you don't want to resort to violence right now. And I was like, but I told him that because you were firstborn, you were already promised this shirt. And he's like, that's the right answer. And I'm like, I know. But anyways, then the next day, Nick Nimmin is wearing his shirt. I know this has gone on for a while, but I have to finish my story. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay. And he's wearing the shirt. And my mouth drops open and I'm like, oh my God, you're wearing it. Like, you're not just saying that you like, he's like, no, I think it's awesome. It's so rad. I'm like, oh, my heart. It's so nice to see this. And then I run into D and it's the day that he's going to be talking on stage. He's giving his presentation with Daniel Batal at the end of the day. And I was like, hey, not for nothing, but like, Nick's wearing his shirt today, just saying. He's like, he is? He's like, I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, I'm going to wear my shirt. And I was like, sweet, we can get a picture. But I just thought he would wear it during the day. But no, he wore it on stage. So that was even another moment. So right after, I think, the talk, I was like, oh my gosh, we're standing next to each other. Let's take a photo. I've got my Nim and 1 and Nim and 2. And ironically, I was also wearing red. So it almost looked like I was a part of it, but I wasn't. It just happened to match. So that is the story behind the Nim and 1, Nim and 2 shirt that made my heart so happy that they were wearing that shirt. So just on the off chance that you see that photo and it makes you smile, I hope it does, because it took 2 years to get to that. So if you're still with me, if you didn't mind the story, can I get a thumbs up, please? Please. Thank you so much. Now, let's come back to where we were here. Oh, the Cooking Cup and Babe vlog. Hello, how are you? Josh, great to see you. Oh my gosh, I was just saying, it's like a reunion here tonight. I've got like everybody's here. It's so cool. James Pruitt. I mean, it's like the olden days, y'all. It's like, wow. Everybody's here. Everyone's here. All right. So we just did the exercise with Emma Chamberlain. There is one more example that he gave, and I want to run through it. I was also thinking that it might be fun to run through some of this verbally, and we'll do one together. And I had put out a tweet and an Instagram story asking the other day, like, what's your superpower? What's mine? And nobody responded, first of all. Anybody in this chat here that's here right now, nobody responded. But that's fine. We'll just do it together. Okay. So the next one, we're going to have 3 positive traits and then 2 perhaps not as positive traits. So let me know who you think comes to mind when I say these things. All right. The positives are They are artistic. They are charismatic. They have an amazing work ethic. Okay, those were all of the positives. Again, we're saying artistic, charismatic, wow, with the work ethic, okay? That's the 3 right there. The next 2, the positives, okay, or the not as positives are, this person might be considered quite intense and blunt. Wow, those last 2 sound like me. Oh wait, it's not about me yet. We're gonna bring back to me in a little bit. So positives are artistic, charismatic, work ethic. Not as positives were blunt and intense. Let me know. Let me know who you think this is, and then I'm gonna drop their photos on the screen. Yeah, the Broncos and the Colts. Can I say, while you guys are thinking about this and tippy tapping, because there's quite a delay, I forget. Tip tap on the keyboard your answers. I so enjoy Eli and Peyton Manning and their commentary when they're watching and calling sports. But I love. Did you guys see the player that stormed the field, or sorry, the fan that stormed the field, of course, in a protest or something, and then just got tackled? I think it was Bobby Wagner that did it, right? Former Seahawk. And, a lot of people are like, oh, it's not great. You shouldn't, and they were like, yeah, that's why I just used to get in there. It was just like, I thought that was funny. I thought it was funny. I was watching the opening pre-game show, however you want to call it. Also, I have, I can pull it up here. I'm going to tell you. I think I have, let's see how it's going. I have Jerry Jeudy on my fantasy football team, and so far he's not doing so great for me. What's going on there? I also have Cortland Sutton on my fantasy football team, so we'll see, because neither of them are doing too well. Sorry, that wasn't the point. I don't think it was a gender. I think it was something about veganism. There's been a lot of like vegan things. So I think he was wearing a shirt, right? I know that's what was happening with a lot of the basketball games and stuff like that. I had to bring in extra security to make sure people weren't doing that. All right, so the person, let me bring the photo on the screen. Let me see if this vibes with what you guys came up with. It's Mr. Neistat, right? Casey Neistat. So positive traits: artistic, charismatic, work ethic, maybe a little blunt, maybe a little intense, right? Okay, so what's interesting about this, I was thinking about this in terms of all of the stuff that was happening with the Try Guys when I was starting to go through and even think about a lot of the reaction that's happening, why people are reacting so strongly, especially to the Ned Fulmer one. And I'm like, especially because this person has built their brand on being the I love my wife guy, right? And so there was this. And then it brought me to thinking about how with branding, there are so many choices for everything. Whether it's tea, why do we drink one tea versus another? Why do we pick one lipstick versus a different lipstick? Maybe for the gentleman you don't, okay? Why do you pick X versus in a sea of Y? And what are people doing that is different differentiators, and how is that sometimes special or telltale? So one of the disruptive type of thinkings that I was talking about with someone was, if you think about bottled water, right? There isn't that much different in some of these water companies. They take filtered water, or perhaps they process water. Maybe it's different based on the location. Maybe it's different based on a color. Maybe they add electrolytes. I don't know. So the ingredients into it. And then I was like, one of the great disruptors that came along and actually kind of changed everything was, if you think about it, if you have seen the boxed water, right? So they really came along and tried to do something different, and they like boxed water tastes better, right? And they made it look like milk cartons. They're not using plastic bottles. I don't know if they're trying to intimate that plastic bottles make water taste worse because of BPA scares or whatever else, if you think about it. Or they're saying that they're better for the environment because it's not plastic that has to break down versus, you know, the cardboard. But I was like, if you start to think about some of these disruptors in the space, what makes them special or different in a sea of the same? Like, what is the differentiating factor? So I was talking about how the differentiating factor is sometimes probably what's going to be perceived in those negative traits. So when we talk about the Casey Neistat, right, which was blunt and intense, right, those aren't things that are typically thought of as like great traits. However, in a sea of artistic, creative, charismatic people, is that the differentiating factor that makes Casey extra special? So I want you guys to do this exercise. So I actually had this brought up so you guys could, let me see, where is it? I had it. The blank one. I just want you guys to think about this. So if you want to, and if you want to put it in the comments, that'd be even better, like class participation, what? Just imagine your little photo, your little avatar in the little picture over there. And if you had to list out a couple of positive traits about yourself and maybe a couple of negative traits, and then we start thinking about, or what could be perceived as negative traits, how would we spin this on its head to be able to help us differentiate and help us define perhaps not only who we are talking about, but who we want to talk about and the tone of voice in which we might use to make our own content. Okay, so, and I also want you guys to help me do this for me because I have a really hard time doing this for me. So one of the things that I was also thinking about when that Casey Neistat 1 was coming out, I was like, ooh, that's almost Peter McKinnon, except for instead of the blunt and maybe it's that overwhelming positivity and, you know, spark of joy that also happens with like the Ryan Trahan example. So let's talk about this, right? Let's see here. Roberto Blake for positive and Gary V for not as positive. Back to the boom bap. Fits. Yeah, it describes so many great creators though. Yeah, it possibly could. It possibly could. So let's talk about this a little bit. If you guys were to, you don't have to say, I guess, all 5 if you don't want to, but maybe start in the chat listing some traits. Could be positive, could be negative. We'll see how it goes. Let me give you a minute to talk about that. You're going to need longer than that. I'm going to need to give you a longer dance break. Give me a second. Pixelpia gets the points for this. Only Pixelpia has participated. Y'all, what are you doing? Come on. Come on. I expect more. All right, so I'm going to put your comment up. Where is it? Where is it? Boom. Boom, 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 boom. Let me move it. Move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. Okay, wait. I almost had it. Dang it. Come back. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it. All right. Now it's on screen. So Pixelpia said, as positive traits, or just traits in general, right? We've got honest, methodical, and curious. And then perhaps those more negative traits are wordy and talking so slowly. It's ironic that you put those together. I like a lot of words and I talk really slowly. I see what you did there. Now, since you were the first and only participant, let's talk about this. All right. So what would be the way that we would frame this as a way to be a positive or a way to think differently perhaps about this and not have them be negatives, right? This is a hard exercise to do, so do not fret if it's difficult. It just is difficult. So let's just talk about this together, okay? How about the Super Mario Brothers trailer? I haven't seen it, although I have heard that I think it's Chris. One of the Chris's is the voice of Mario. Is that true? I don't know. Okay. James Pruitt says any trait can be positive in the right situation and negative in the wrong one. Very true. It's also flip those around. Any trait can be positive in the right situation and or negative in the right situation and positive in the wrong ones. You never know, right? You never know. So one of the things I like about Pixelpia, right, is that you're not, I don't know how to, do not take this any kind of way, okay, is that you are not super duper young and you're not always trying to talk to super duper young people. Does that make sense? Because you happen to be a retired teacher, I feel like you're not going, even though you're trying to teach because that's just innately who you are, ingrained in you, you're not trying to teach like 13-year-olds. I feel like sometimes you're talking to other people who are adults who want to learn things, who don't want to be made to feel like they can't learn something. They don't want someone to speak so fast that they can't understand it. And they don't want to be, talked down to as they're trying to learn something, whatever their skill level is, right? They're taking a chance and wanting to learn something. They enjoy the fact that they're not listening to a 15-year-old teach them something and the 15-year-old isn't trying to make them feel dumb. So I feel like it's kind of where some people might say like, oh, you don't want to be older on YouTube. I feel like it kind of works for you in that way because I'm not saying you only talk to an elderly population, but I'm saying that it's a special tie-in or a thing that you have because of innately who you are. So I think of you as almost like the female version of Steve Dotto. Steve, I have the hiccups now. I tried to scarf down dinner so fast right before because, after this I have to go dance on Thursday. So sorry about that. I think of you as like almost a female version of Steve Dotto. And I hate when people use like these, you're the Uber of Blink or you're this person of this type of industry. And I don't mean it like that. So, but what I mean is he has carved out a special place on the internet as someone, and his podcast is even called like Gray Matters because it's like gray haired, gray beard, so he's kind of like leaned into it and he's not purposefully excluding younger people, but he has found an audience here. Okay. So he's talking about how he's an elderly gentleman teaching elderly people things, whether it's Evernote or, Microsoft Office or Google Photos or things that are online and technology based, but geared towards people who are a little bit older. Okay. So he's not actively excluding 14 and 15-year-olds, but that's not exactly who his demographic is either. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if that does or does not. So it says, makes sense until you look at your analytics and your audience is 18 to 34. Interesting. So, oh, James Pruitt in the house now with participation. So knowledgeable, caring, passionate, negatives, easily distracted, and boring. I don't find you boring. I wonder if that's more self-inflicted evaluation versus what you're hearing from other people. I would be curious where you came to the conclusion that that is a word or a trait for you. So what's funny is I think about this too as a negative where I'm also easily distracted. You and I are both in the squirrel club, right? We've always chatted about that before. One person who I think has kind of devoted and thrived with the squirrel club as well, Cody Warner. And I was thinking about him the other day as I was starting to go through this branding exercise, the one that I showed you with the positive and negative traits, because now as I'm starting to look, I know it's tough, but like they always talk about being a student, right? We're always trying to be a student of YouTube and learning and classifying, and like we have our own algorithms that are going on in our head. And one of the things I'm trying to do is like classify almost like in a database. Like if I had to then go behind each person and put these 5 traits in this descending order or whatever else it is, right? And how they're able to effectively fine tune what could be perceived as a negative and turn it into a positive. Why are some people able to really grind those gears together and make it click? And then that helps them succeed on YouTube when you really lean into what it is that makes you different as that differentiating factor instead of going with the norm. So that's where my head has been a lot in this past like month or so, as I've also been going through this personal branding class as well. And it's hard to turn your brain off of it once you start doing it. But immediately what comes to mind when I see the squirrels or something like that, or ADHD, or however you might want to classify, is Cody Warner. And I think he almost leans into it. He talks about it. He almost makes explainer videos about why sometimes his brain doesn't make the same connections, or why it doesn't go in this linear fashion, or why he could be really excited about something and then like drop it the next day and then go into another thing, right? And I'm wondering, since you, me, Cody, let's say, all have a little bit of this kind of like, we get distracted by shiny objects or something like that. How do we take that and turn it on its head and flip it into something? And I'm not expecting an answer this second. I'm just saying, like, these are the thoughts now that I'm starting to have as I have come out of Vid Summit and also been taking inventory of my own channel / life / everything. These are questions I'm asking myself, and now I'm asking you as well, because I like to take you not only along on the journey, but hopefully, you know, some of you come here to try to learn how to have a better YouTube channel, how to have a better understanding, how to be a better creator, how to, you know, these things. And I want to help you. Even if I can't guide you through the process, I can at least illuminate and give you an idea of a question to ask or something to think about. Okay. So, it says, oh, I've been told plenty of times your videos are boring and bland. Okay. If you're receiving feedback that you're boring and bland, this could be a few different things, right? It could be that you're not reaching the right audience. It could be that there's something that needs to change in your presentation style, which you may or may not want to change, right? If it's one thing where you're like, oh, how do I be more charismatic on video, and that's something I care about, then I guess take it with a grain of salt. If it's like, this is who I am and this is how I present and this is most authentically me and anything else would be me putting on a show, see you later, find a different channel. You know what I mean? Like you can't care too much about it. So I guess it also is a self-evaluation of, do I believe those things to be true? Is that something I want to work on? Because all of these things could be separate, right? Is it something I believe to be true? Could be. Is it something I want to change? No. Okay, well then it's it's the same conclusion. Is this something that I believe? No. Well then you're not going to change. You see what I'm saying? So it really kind of just depends on, there's my favorite phrase. Any of my channel members who are in here and have access to the it depends emoji, drop that, would you? Drop the it depends emoji, okay? By the way, if you want to become a channel member, we do have channel memberships going on. You can... No, that's not what I meant to do. Y'all, I hit the wrong button. Okay, you can join, become a channel member. There you go. There's a whole playlist of videos that you can access, and you guys get special emojis and such. By the way, I did drop, I had uploaded it a while ago, but I made it public now because I was under, I guess you could say, embargo or non-compete, where I did a presentation. I think you guys might have, not that I expect you to follow up with my lives that closely, but I did a presentation called the Agency Summit put on by Mike Alton at Agora Pulse. And so I did a presentation. I think it was on YouTube Shorts and vertical video. Not that you haven't heard me talk about it tons of times, but I did at least record the session that I presented for them, and it had to stay unlisted until their replay period ran out. So that's an additional video that I just finally unprivated for members only, FYI, guys. All right, so you've been trying to answer the question for 10 years, man, and I can tell you that it's like, right, what do I always say? Like, I can do it for anyone but me. Oh my gosh, you guys, I wanted to buy a URL for anyoneButMe.com or anyoneBut.me. They were taken. So it's so hard these days sometimes to find a URL that isn't taken. Side story on this, I'm having to revamp my websites because one of the websites that I have, so I think again, I always presume that you guys know my life, and I'm like, I think you guys know. You don't. Let me just tell it to you because you obviously don't know my life that well, right? I can't expect you to. I have like 30 URLs just because every once in a while I'm like, oh, that's funny, and I buy one. But my main YouTube URL was ShellySavesAday.com, right? Obviously. And for a while I had a Rivet site. They have since, in the last couple of months, decided after 4 years of business or so that they're not going to stay in business any longer. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to have to move my site to a different site. So I was like, I could do a Google site because that's free. Or I was like, oh, I still have one license left on this WordPress deal that I had gotten through an AppSumo deal maybe a year ago. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll just transfer it to my AppSumo. I'll set up a WordPress site and I'll fix out the kinks later. Come to find out that the website has been offline. I don't even think now it's still online. It's been offline for like 2.5 months, and I just didn't even know or realize, or because how often sometimes do you go to your own website? Not that often, but it turns out hasn't been working in the last like 2.5 months, and I just never realized it. Now I think I set up a forwarding and it just goes to like Shelly FYI, which is a 1-page landing page, but I haven't had a chance yet to fix it all. Where was I going with that? There was a whole point, y'all. I'm gonna have to come back. We're gonna have to the ADD, the shiny thing, man. Because like seriously, there was a whole point of telling you why. Anyways, the website had to be moved, and now it goes to the wrong place because the server got taken down in some sort of like cybersecurity data breach attack, and so as is my life. Anyways, there it is. You like Cody's videos? Okay. Sweet. Yeah, Cody's great, man. All right, Pixel P. Oh, you did my homework. Thank you so much. Thank you for participating. All right, so Pixel P said Shelly is knowledgeable, an open book, and passionate about helping. That is correct. Yes, man. Yes. Okay. And squirrel-brained and somewhat disorganized. You think I'm disorganized? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'd like to think that I'm highly organized, but like, that's probably not true. Actually, if you were to take a snapshot of my desk right now, well, one, I'd be embarrassed, but it's just little graveyard piles of Post-its. I'm like, this was a good idea, and this was a good idea, and this is a conversation from Post-its. I was having a phone call with someone, and I write down, of course, like Post-its of like, oh, make sure to bring up this, make sure to bring up this. Yes, I'm listening. And it's just a graveyard of Post-its right now. So somewhat disorganized. I commend you for not saying completely disorganized. Somewhat is that. I will take that. Okay. So Pixel Pia says, I think it's important to embrace your squirrel brain and make it more visible part of my videos. How does one fully articulate and demonstrate a squirrel brain? Because if you've ever heard me try to tell a story, I would think it's on full display because I'll be like, oh, and here, oh, and this, oh, and Images by Gretchen. Hey, great to see you. Oh, it's nice to see you. Not distractible, but instead inquisitive and intelligent enough to be interested in learning new things. Positive twist. Oh, what are you, a lawyer? Or wordsmith? So, trying to find out how to be entertaining and still authentic self and focused on one niche. Yeah. Georgia Tech, hello. Great to, wow, you guys. So many familiar faces. It's so nice to have. Squirrel moment. Okay. So you guys remember, was it not last week because that was Vid Summit, but the week before that, okay? Communication coach Alex Lyon. Great guy. Had him on this channel to do an interview, and I did an interview on his channel. He was like, I don't understand, like, you're actually typing and responding to people and you're still like making eye contact with maybe someone. I think it was when Roberto was on, and he's like, you're still having conversation. Like, how are you doing this? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, you have a couple monitors, and I'm like, maybe it's my distracted brain because I can disassociate for a second while someone else is talking and just, write a reply real quick. It's more like, hey, how are you? Good to see you. Not full on essays. But this over here, I was just like, yeah, it's just nice to see everyone. So this is one of those moments where I'd be like, hi, Giorgio Tech. Hi, Pixelpia. Hi, James Pruitt. Hi, Images by Gretchen. Great to see all of you, right? So, yeah. I know you have your Post-its, but that is what is somewhat disorganized. I know, right? I know. You're not wrong. You're highly observant, and I resemble that comment. I'm not offended. Well, I'm somewhat offended. I'm not offended. Yeah. All right. So Georgia Tech is still at work. So as part of my problem is I can be joking around and goofy, and then as soon as I hit record, I get all serious. Now, one other thing that I want to talk about, I had just seen that the YouTube creators channel. One of the things that I've always hated about YouTube, and I'm just going to say that, is that if you want to go faster, farther, all that thing, you really have to decide on maybe a subject matter or an archetype of a type of person with psychographics and demographics that you're really trying to go after in a specific type of subject, right? So we would call that niching down, whether that's by topic, subject, category, something like that. And that has been so contrary to what I want to do, because as a squirrel-brained type of person, one of the worst ways for us to have to continue on and forward is to confine us into one category, one topic, one group, one thing for extended periods of time, right? I just start to feel a little bit like twitchy about it. Now, one of the things that they talked about is that they're playing around with a YouTube experiment where channel layouts will look different dependent upon people's past interactions with your videos or your channel. What does that mean? It means that the possibility could happen where you could be a variety channel that covers multiple topics, but someone finds you for one topic. Let's say it's chicken recipes. Daniel Batal, I'm looking at you. And then all of a sudden, but let's say you also talk about movie reviews, and you talk about, vintage guitars, and you talk about race cars and car refurbishing. And right, we've got very far different things. And then one day you have chicken recipes, and this person falls in love with a chicken recipe. I mean, why wouldn't you? And then says, oh my gosh, I need to find more of this. And so they're experimenting with, if they watched some piece of content, let's say from chicken and recipes, maybe the first video they would be presented on your homepage would be your playlist of chicken. You see what I'm saying? Versus like the shorts or live streams or whatever. So they're also playing around with the idea of, instead of the one channel video page, right, really having, and I saw this on Twitter from Todd Beaupre saying this is coming. This is already coming, where it's a separate kind of page for shorts versus live streams versus regular VODs, right, or video on demand. And not only that, but they're also going to do additional, if you think about this, is additional customization where if you're a channel who has never created a playlist, you won't have that tab on your, it just won't appear. Which I think is fascinating in the way that they can dynamically generate what your YouTube homepage could look like based on how you use YouTube and how other people who have interacted with your channel interact with your channel. Just, Is that not like a little bit of a moment for anyone else? No, just me, just the cheese stands alone. Cool, cool, so cool. All right. I think it's fascinating. So what this means potentially for some people is that you don't have to be restricted or relegated to having 7 different channels to satisfy the 7 different types of content as a squirrel brain that you may have, because we're all multifaceted individuals, and sometimes we want to be able to talk about chicken recipes and then motorcycle repair the next day and then dance video, whatever it is, okay? And so the fact is, they're saying you don't have to necessarily make a different channel for each one of these interests. You can just, make the playlist, make the whatever, and the people will be served more of what they want, and you don't have to change yourself. Like, you don't have to let the world change you. You can still change the world. YouTube will change the interface for the people joining. Like, what? Like, is that just me? Just me? I think it's freaking rad, y'all. I think it's so cool. Also, if you see an abundance of shorts on the channel since October 3rd, or, okay, I'm part of a challenge right now where we are doing 30 shorts in 30 days, okay? It's called, like, the Shorts 30. It's called Shorts Timber, whatever. Yeah, right? And so that's why. It's part of an experiment, and I'm not necessarily going in right now because there is the possibility of going into YouTube Studio on the desktop and unchecking the box that says notify my subscribers of this video, which means you can unclick it so that your existing subscribers won't be notified of the video. But because it's only 1 per day, I'm not doing that, right? Because I'm not risking the whole 3 notifications within 24 hours. And I'm usually just doing it from my phone. So I'm not doing it from my phone and then going into YouTube Studio desktop to hit the button. So just FYI, if you see an abundance of shorts over the next 30 days, that's why. I'm part of a shorts challenge to try and complete 30 shorts in 30 days. That's why. Okay. If you want to join in on it, why not? There's Veda, vlog every day. And I know a lot of people might be participating in, what is it? Vlog, the one during Christmas time. What is it? Vlogtober? No, it's, what is it called? Dang, someone help me. The word searching that's happening right now. Vlogmas. If you don't feel like you can commit to Vlogmas, okay, maybe commit to Shorts Timber in December and make it a December to remember. Maybe. Okay. They don't have to be super long and complicated. I think the one that I posted yesterday was me doing this, like listening to a little, I was going to hold up a seashell to my ear, but I didn't. And then I just literally opened up my hand and I put the text. It took me 8 seconds to record that and then 8 seconds to do the text. So that video, I think I'll go look right now. I think it has like 1,500 views, which is just silly considering it took no time to make. So I think that a lot of the time we make content creation harder than it needs to be. And it really is like this testament to, you ever notice sometimes the videos that you spend the most time trying to create don't even end up doing that well. And the ones that you maybe just threw up on a whim or just didn't even, and I think the thing is we just have to put out more content. And so, it's a 7-second video, 8-second video, 1,754 views. Oh, it only has like an 85% like rate. Maybe go watch it and give it a thumbs up. It only cost you 8 seconds of your life. Rude. People are rude. Anyways, so that's what's happening over there is 30 shorts, 30 days. So James Pruitt says, I can't stay in my box. I usually forget the boxes exist. James Pruitt, thank you so much. He said, I am super organized to you, right? And there's always that comparison. There's always someone, here's this moment. I had posted this on my Instagram. Okay, so the picture that I had with the Niman brothers where I'm in the center, I'm still actually pretty tall. I'm 5'7", and maybe they're like, what are they, like 6'2", 6'3", maybe something like that. And someone was like, oh my gosh, they're giants. And I'm like, oh, okay, are they? And then the next day or that night, I had a picture with 2 of my friends, both of which I'm in a YouTube mastermind with, and I am like towering over them. Like, they're just small. I don't know how else to say it. Or I'm tall, sure, or both. And it reminded me of that picture series, you know, it says there's always someone bigger. It's like Shaq versus Yao versus like Kevin Hart, you know, right? It was like, there's always someone bigger. And I felt like that moment because I was like, I'm next to the Niman brothers and I'm here. And then I'm next to my friends and they're like down here. And I was like, there's always someone bigger. There's always someone bigger. So let's see. Matthew Pate says, I should note for my question above, merch on came from merch on Amazon, but Amazon changed the program to Amazon Merch on Demand. I just feel like I put myself in a box naming it Merch on. Oh, did I miss the question? The question for my... Did I miss the question? Maybe I missed the question. It says, retired elementary teacher and librarian. Oh, my mom was a school teacher, and I have high respect for school teachers. The truth can be offensive. I know. Vlogmas. Sounds fun. Some of my best performing videos broke all the best practices and were thrown together without a lot of planning and editing. It happens, man. It happens. It really does happen that way sometimes. We only have a couple minutes left. Let me just check my disorganized Post-its real quick. Pixelpia. Thank you for the feedback. It's actually great to have you participate in that. And if anyone else wants to tell me how great I am, that's totally your prerogative. The reason is I'm having a really hard time in this personal branding class that I'm in, being able to articulate what it is I do, who I help. And there's a whole story with that, right? And I was trying to say, like, I have a hard time. I can't articulate it. I know that I can go in there and flip your shit inside out. I know that I am very strategic in the way that I want to go about and organize things. Like, I think it's all dependent on each that like I don't want to give a generic answer because I believe it's specific to your situation, right? Like the advice that I give James Pruitt isn't the same that I give to Pixelpia if I'm your YouTube coach. And so how do you have enough of a generic, this is how I function, operate, and who I help, and be able to say that? Like, I have a very hard time articulating what it is that I do and who I help. And because of that, right, and saying like, I don't always do well in settings where I have to explain what I do and who I help, which is ironic since I have a YouTube channel about trying to help people do better. And I'm like, that's why it's do as I say, not as I do, because anyone but me, right? But the website URL was taken. Not that it matters because my servers were hacked and I can't even get to my website anyway. And it's just been really difficult. And just like James said, this is a question that I've been trying to solve for the past 4 years, right? And in some instances, like maybe I sign NDAs, like I can't talk about working with this particular company. I can't talk about when I worked under this person, but like I did things and I've helped people, and I can't just be like, trust me, it's going to be great. Because people don't do well with that. But how to actually, there's a sea of, let's say, YouTube educators, and how can I stand apart or be separate? And I was starting to do this exercise myself, and I was saying one of the things about me, besides that I'm very squirrel-brained and really disorganized, is that I am not ladylike in some ways. I don't politely sit and twiddle my thumbs. I don't not have an opinion on things. I will tell you, and I'm not afraid to take a stand. Eminem, don't come for me. I'm not afraid to tell you that what I'm seeing, I don't like, right? I think some people are afraid to like offend you with, oh, I think everything you're doing is perfect. And I'm like, no, I don't think it's perfect. I think you're missing these things. And I struggle with being able to be someone who says, I think these things are missing, but not coming across as cold, calculating, without a heart, bitch, you know? And so how do I mean, like when I joke with y'all and I'm like, I hate with love, you know, but I hate because I want everyone to win. And that's harder as a tagline to put on a business card or to say in a slogan and be like, I'm that girl that will tell you that your stuff is awful, but with love. And I'm like, that's not a great slogan, but it's also not what is attracting people, but it is the differentiating factor that I have, right? I don't just fluffy sugarcoat cheerlead for you, but I am a cheerleader for everyone to succeed. Like, I want everyone to succeed. Like, I'm not afraid or to be transparent and share everything with y'all, right? Whether it's how much money I'm making or the struggles I'm going through or the insecurities that I'm feeling. And I feel like a lot of people kind of hide and keep that stuff secret. Like, I'm like Pixel says, like, I'm a very open book with y'all. Like, I try to be very honest, but I think it also bites me in the ass because I'm not willing to sit there and be like, I'm so great, I'm so amazing. Because I sit there with self-crippling anxiety to be like, I don't know why people want to hire me, but they do. Like, even when some people do hire me, they're like, I had to keep asking. I had to keep, convincing you. I had to to tell you that you're getting, I don't know, y'all. So all of that. And there is more of you don't come to me. And I always try and tell you, like, the fitness people, right? You've got the namaste people. Everything is, and you've got fitness boot camp person who's like, get your pansy booty over here across the finish line because you're not even like putting in effort. That's me. Okay. I am that like boot camp person, but it's coming from a good place, but I'm not going to be super ladylike and tell you that like, everything is perfect and everything is great. So I'm still trying to figure out how those positive and negative traits can really be used for me to flip that on its head, because even in the branding course that I'm in, like I said, I'm having a really hard time articulating that because everyone else has been very good at like, this is what I do, this is who I help, and this is my packaging, and this is my core product. And I'm like, even if someone wanted to buy my core product right now, I can't even direct them to a website to buy it on because it's broken. So not that it matters because people have been convinced to go and buy my services, because also I don't like to talk about them because I have this innate guilt that comes along with not just asking people for money because I believe that what I do provides value. It's because it was back like when I sold real estate, and people forget, like, I've had a million careers and it's both positive and a negative, but it's like, I did not want to be the one networking at an event and handing out business cards and being like, if you know anyone that wants to buy or sell, help. And like, no. But if I work with you, you're going to get stellar service. You're going to get outstanding, like, disorganization. Pixelpia. You're going to get all of that. I just don't want to go out and get it. And so also it made me start to believe that maybe I don't need to be the face of blank. And I've been thinking about this for a couple of years, right? I don't need to be the face of even my own YouTube channel. Like, I didn't have a huge problem with being a coach for someone else's business. I had a problem with other parts of the business, but technically, like, if there were some really successful program out there and they were looking for an additional YouTube strategist, coach, whatever, it doesn't need to be the Shelly Show. Like, I'm more than happy to go be a helper under someone else's mission. It doesn't have to be my company. So I guess where I'm going with that is it's just really hard. In a difficult place right now, because even if I'm thinking about jobs and where I'd like to work, it's like, I don't need to be the face of something. I can be, one of the worker bees in line, but like, there has to be a level of trust and execution and ideas that can, as long as it's the mission and vision of whatever company I'm working for is really truly in alignment with what I want. But that's also hard to articulate when there's like, it's harder when I can be like, I can tell you all the things I don't stand for, what I don't like, than the things that I actually truly am, or what I truly do and help people, or how I help people. So that's where I'm at right now with this whole like process. I'm a few weeks in and we're really trying to do all this introspective reflection, and I'm just having a hard time. I'm on the struggle bus, y'all, but I want to tell you about this branding exercise that Ryan Trahan had come up with, all the stuff that seems to be imploding recently on the internet, which just seems to be a violation of, or a crumbling of what people thought was a brand, and why I think people are having such a hard time wrapping their heads around the fact that it isn't what they thought. They're all kind of intersecting together in my life at this moment, and I wanted to share with y'all and hopefully enlighten you into not only the branding exercise, but how, and make you start thinking, how could I take what could be perceived as a negative trait, turn it into a positive thing, and actually kind of use it to differentiate myself, because I think the people who really figure it out, I think the people who really do this, those are the ones that succeed on YouTube. These are the people, when you figure it out, when you're very clear on that and on the branding stuff, or, you know, those positive, negative traits and how it all intersects not only with your life, but your content and your personal image and, you know, the message that you put out online. I think those are the ones that get it. The rest of us that aren't sure yet, and are still trying to figure it out and work through it, you're not by yourself. You're not alone. And I just want to share that with y'all. Do you guys have anything that you want to share for the good of the group? Let me know. Let me know. This would be the time. Or forever hold your peace. All right, so I have to skedaddle-ish my way out of here. If you want to participate in the exercise, drop a comment, though. I don't know how long the chat goes because it is delayed like 30 seconds. Or drop it as a comment on this video with some positives and negatives and some, you know, ways to twist that on its head. Because I would be curious. Maybe we can help each other with it. Or if you want to do it in the Discord group, if there's any moderators around that want to drop in the Discord, if you want to do this exercise and participate together, maybe try and brainstorm it for other people to also do it with you in the Discord group, maybe drop it in there, okay? So thanks everyone for being here. Adam's Exploit, James Pro, good to see you. Pixelpia, everyone, thank you for the reunion, all right? I appreciate you all so much. I'll see you in a video very soon, and if you're interested, keep checking back because Shortstober is here and there's a new short dropping every day in October. All right. Good night, y'all.